Welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. As always, I'm Jordan, and today we're going to look at the 1920 by Old Forester, part of the Whiskey Rose series. Now, we have two bottles out here because this one is the new, I think it's 2022 release, and then I have the older release, which is, I don't know, I don't think it says on here. I think this is from like 2019 maybe. I've already reviewed this older whiskey, but I want to do a head-to-head. So we're going to look at the new release first. And if you've watched some of the reviews, you'll see that I've re-reviewed the 1910, and I did a head-to-head review on those. And the new version, the new release of the 1910 was much better, in my opinion. And I really liked the old release quite a bit of both the 1910 and the 1920. Now, the 1910 is a bit lower proof than this 1920. 1920 coming in at 115 proof, so it's a little more stout. But we're going to look and see if the 1920 releases have a similar result as the 1910 releases, where the new one is a little bit better than the old one. We'll take a look and see. The other thing about the new release, you can look at the label. Now, I don't know what's going on with my color. I just shot the Colonel E.H. Taylor, and the yellow, something was going on that the camera just didn't like it very much, didn't like how it was looking. And in this, I can see that the labels are are pretty much blurred out because of the whiteness on them. I don't know, for some reason, but I'll see if I can get on here. The new label, I still can't get it too much, but the new label is much cleaner than the old label, which just had a lot going on with the way the words were and whatever else. So the new labels on the Old Forester products, much cleaner lines, much nicer, classier look to it. So not that reflects anything about the whiskey, but anyways, here we go. 1920 Prohibition Style. I believe it's a non-age stated whiskey. Once again, yeah. Okay, it is 57.5% ABV or 115 proof. So bit stouter, expecting a little bit bolder flavor here out of these. And like I said, first we're gonna go through and give you my nosing and tasting notes on the new release, and then we'll go back and we'll do a head-to-head between the new and the old. So on the nose, here we go. It's a dense cherry and wood, like an oak, a very dense oak and cherry, syrupy, not syrupy sweet, but just syrupy dense smell. No ethanol at all coming out of this glass right now, but a dense cherry oak, brown sugar, or molasses, even just a dense, it's a dense sweetness. Molasses might be the right name because it's not like sugary sweet denseness, but the sweetness that's there is just this dense. I'll go with molasses mixed with that cherry and oak. It's very nice, but man, that nose is so dense, and it just smells viscous. Now the ethanol's starting to come out a little bit. Giving a good swirl here. Lots of fingers, very oily. Yeah. Dark fruit, oak, and dark sweet notes, I guess I would say. Raisin. Raisin might be a good word. Very interesting. Going in for the taste. Very interesting. Kind of a watery, thin, forward flavor profile. I didn't get a lot of anything on at first. Got a little bit of ethanol nipping on the edges of my tongue, but nothing overpowering. And then a very sweet, nice, grainy graham cracker came through. It moved into kind of that dense, not as sweet molasses, and then finished with some oak. Um, and the nose has actually moved more floral now. Um, Boy, interesting. I'm gonna go back in for a second sip, see if I can pick out some kind of beginning to that palate. Because on the first sip, it just wasn't there, and I don't know if that's carryover, lingering from the E.H. Taylor or what. But there we go. That graham cracker's still front and present. Nice, light mid palate oak that pushes in there. A little bit of tannin, little bit of stringency pushing into the back end of that mid palate. Finishes up with a brown sugar sweetness on the beginning of the finish, and then it pushes into the kind of that astringent oak and combination dark molasses on the finish there. Um, Really nice, pretty dense flavors. Um, it transitions from beginning to end quite smoothly. And the flavor profile is quite rounded. There wasn't any holes in that second sip. That first sip was completely missing the beginning part of the flavor profile, but it came up with a second sip. Um, and It's pretty darn nice. It's a good one. I would say if you added some water to this and proofed it down a little bit, you might actually get a lot more out of the flavor profile. It seems like it's on the edge of wanting to give you more without actually providing more. Um, I don't have any knocks against it. There's nothing bad against it. I just think if you played with it, you could get a little bit more out of it. Um, it's really nice. So that's the new release. And before I get too far, let's get the price tag on this. Because again, I found this here locally, and I got it for $49.09 compared to the old release, which I picked up. I think I bought it somewhere else. Let me see if I can figure out where I bought this one. I bought the original 1920 in Rochester, Minnesota, and I paid $59.99, which at the time I bought this in 2019 or 2020. I think it was 2020, May of 2020. I bought this, and or actually no, May 2021. I think I bought this, and at the time, it in town it was like in the mid 60s, and so when I saw it for $59, I was like, "Ooh, good score, right?" Since then, the cheaper liquor store in town picked up the Old Forester whiskey roll line and has had them in the mid 40s. I want to say the 1910 they had for like 43 or $46, and then of course this 1920 was $49.09. So good prices on those. If you can find them for that price, definitely pick them up. Highly recommend that. So you're talking a $10 price difference here, just mainly based on localities and taxes and all that stuff. But um, here's how we're doing this. So, new whiskey, old whiskey, new whiskey, old whiskey. Okay. So, on the nose straight away, I'd say the old 1920 has a much more floral nose, more apple, more sweetness, more cherry blossom, like a honey sweetness in there, compared to the new 1920. The new 1920, way denser. The old one smells more like a Buffalo Trace product. The new one smells more like an Old Forester product. Dense. The nose keeps changing on me now. The new one, it's becoming more dense caramel and brown sugar, along with graham cracker and a little bit of peanut. Now that it's opened up a little bit. And head to head, you would not mistake either of these as being the same whiskey. Way denser, though. The new 1920 is way denser in the nose profile. And I'd say denser and darker in sweetness complexity. So caramel, brown sugar, molasses. This is more, the old one is more floral, honey, apple. Yep. Okay. On the old taste, old 1920 taste. Yeah. Now the nose profile, they're starting to match a little bit more, but the density of this is of the new 1920 is literally 2 to 3 times deeper than the old 1920. Same proof, both are sitting at 115. Okay, so the older one, again, a little watery thin up front. You hit a sweet note midway through the beginning part of the flavor profile. That's a honey, moves into a really light caramel, and then it gets hit with boy, how would I describe this? Like a light astringent oak, whereas the new one gets hit more with a dense, dark oak with a slight astringency to it. So you get more wood in the new 1920, you get more astringency in the old 1920, and then it finishes with a nice light sweet honey, light black pepper, and some ethanol. The nose just switched to a graham cracker. So now the noses are starting to become more similar, but still, golly, the density on this new one, the new 1920 is just, now it's just all like dark caramel molasses covered graham cracker is all I'm getting out of the new one. Flavor profile, I mean, there's just no comparison there. Dense, sweet, brown sugar, molasses, a nice dense oak that's not overbearing and not bitter. There's not that astringency there. It's just a little tickle. Versus the old 1920 just having, now it's going back to Buffalo Trace in the nose profile. Going back more towards that floral, but still sweet, but it's that honey sweet, florally sweet, a little bit of apple, a real light caramel. Second sip, same as with the new 1920, not as watery thin. You get a little more density in that flavor profile. It's a real light sweetness that carries from beginning to the middle of the mid palate before you turn into this. The oak is still a little bit more astringent in there. It's a little more bitter, but it hits you. It's very nice. So the new, in my opinion, the new 1920 wins. It's denser, deeper, darker, more heft to all the nose notes and the flavor profile. It's more complete, more rounded, and it's more of what I want. I like those sweet notes, but they're backed up with really nice oak notes, and they're just punching hard. Whereas the old one, where it's still a very nice flavor profile, I would be happy with it, bar none. It's lighter presentation and sweetness. Lighter presentation has more of those like floral notes in the nose, like I was talking the apple, more Buffalo Trace esque, and the flavors in the taste are not as dense and heavy hitting. Still pleasant, but not as dense. So if you can find one of the newer releases, and again, I'd show you the differences again on the bottles, but it's just not showing up on the camera very well. Um, um, there's a slight color difference in the labels. The new label The lines are cleaner. The writings on the old one, the Prohibition Style, is stamped over the top of the writing on the bottom, whereas the new one says 1920 Prohibition Style underneath it, very cleanly, nice white label. Whereas on the old label, it's kind of a dingy cream color, and then the actual bottle seal here is a darker blue, a little bit darker, like more of a darker shade of a robin egg blue, whereas on the old one it's more of a light blue. So some things to look out for. But if I'm going to make a recommendation, it's going to be the new release, the newer release, because I think this is even still a year old already, of the 1920. Go out, pick yourself up some. I paid $49.09. You can find it for under $60, which is kind of the going rate for most of the Whiskey Row series whiskeys. Go ahead and pick yourself up a bottle if you like a little bit higher proof. I still think the 1910's a little bit better of a whiskey. The lower proof is nice, but being at 115, put some water in there, gives you a little bit more flexibility as far as playing with it, finding some interesting characteristics on it. High proof whiskey is great, just to sip, to enjoy, to slow down a little bit, but also because it gives you that flexibility, that option to add some water, open it up, proof it down to something that you might like, and every level that you take it to, you're going to find something a little bit different. So go ahead and give that a try as well. I highly recommend doing so. It's a very enjoyable way to spend an evening. Yeah, pick yourself up some 1920. Go ahead and drop in the comments down below if you've ever had it, what your thoughts are, if you've had both the older releases and the new release, and tell me what you think of that, if I'm off my rocker, or which one you prefer more. Again, I'm leaning towards the new release as being better, but both being very good, well-priced bourbon for what you're getting. And anything else you have to say, drop that down in the comments below, as well as how much you can find a bottle of 1920 in your area. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, check us out on BitchUte and Rumble, Life and Whiskey, Life and Whisk on Rumble, and also on YouTube, although not going to be doing as much with YouTube, so check out BitchUte and Rumble a bit more. BitchUte especially, it's bitchute.com. I release videos every Wednesday and Saturday there. So as always, thanks for watching. You guys have yourselves a great day. Do greatly appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next video.